Fantasy baseball season is right around the corner, and if you're like me, you are beyond excited to smite your enemies and I guess friends in the battlefield that is fantasy baseball, a real man's fantasy sport. By real man, I mean sweaty, analytic, obsessed nerds like myself. Football for babies. Baseball. Now let's talk about, I want to say sleepers, but I hate using the word sleepers for the most part. I don't know, dude. It's just like anytime I see a video that says sleepers in it, I just know that I'm about to be spoon-fed a bunch of useless information. But sleepers, potential breakout guys that may resurrect their career, or just overall solid players that you can pick up on the waiver wire more than likely right now. Every player that I'm going to be talking about in this video is available for majority of leagues. They're owned in less than 50%, I guess is a more understandable way to say that. Whatever. Let's get started. Nico Horner. I'm also going to mispronounce names in this video. You can let me know if I mispronounce them in the comments. I don't care though. It's kind of my thing. It's my charm. Now, I am a Cubs fan, which is unfortunate. It is a poverty franchise that is honestly depressing to even watch most of the time. But Nico Horner provides just a little bit of hope. You know, is he the most exciting shortstop in the world? No. But is he going to bat for high average and steal bases? Yes, he is. I feel that Nico Horner's only real roadblock is his own body. That is going to be the issue. He has a tiny little bit of pop to him. He's not going to hit you 30 home runs or anything, but he might get you a 10 or 15er for sure. He is worth the investment alone for average and stolen bases with, a little bit of counting stats in there. He's not going to score a lot of runs, mainly because the Cubs offense is looking pretty rough, but he's worth the investment for sure. I don't think there's really anyone that personifies he's going to do perfectly okay as long as he doesn't get hurt more than Nico, for sure. Next up, Jake McCarthy. He's somebody who kind of came out of nowhere last year. Anyone who was around for the playoffs of last year's fantasy baseball season, you either played against him or you had him on your team. He popped off heavily at the very end of the season. Now, there's obviously going to be a lot of hype on him from a fantasy perspective, and if you're like a Diamondbacks fan, he's going to be able to steal bases. He's going to hit the ball regularly enough. I don't know if he's going to continue with the 283 average that he had before. He was kind of on fire for a little bit. He does have a little bit of pop too. You know, this is a very small sample size, you know. Is he worth picking up? Yeah, I mean, especially if you're having kind of outfield issues, or maybe you're waiting for some people to come back from injuries, then yeah, Jake McCarthy can definitely step in and, hold down the fort a little bit. I will say it's worth it to keep him for a couple months, even if he is struggling, though, because I do think he has the potential to provide counting stats. It's just a matter of, will he? He's not exactly in the most dangerous lineup in the world, but we'll see. If he even does 50% of what he did in that short sample size last season, he's worth a roster spot for sure. Now, Jordan Walker, he is the personification he is definitely going to be somebody that you've seen on many of these videos, many podcasts, etc. Jordan Walker is being championed by everyone at this point. Now, unfortunately, he's on the Cardinals, so I kind of hate him, but he's going to have to deal with a lot being there for obvious reasons. So there's no question if he's available, you pick this guy up. The potential alone is worthwhile, for sure. If he is there, which he is only rostered in 39% of leagues, you pick up Jordan Walker. It doesn't matter how stacked you are at third base. If you don't believe in him or not, it's better to not believe in him and him struggle than him pop off on someone else's team. Pick him up. He's only 20 years old. Give him some time. Give him a longer leash. Now, the other issue is, are the Cardinals going to give him a long leash? Because they look to actually want to contend this year. That's going to be his biggest kind of speed hump, for sure. Cody Bellinger. Now, we're not that far removed. We're about 4 years removed from his MVP season. And he has done basically nothing since then, except for get injured and disappoint people. Now, the fact of the matter is, he's out from under the massive amount of pressure that is the Dodgers organization, where they're, obviously favored to make it to the World Series, or at least up there in top 5 teams to make it to the World Series every single year. So that pressure is gone now. He's playing for the Cubs team, who they have no pressure. Nobody expects the Cubs to do anything. Now, if you're a Cubs fan, you know that the Cubs, instead of doing a full rebuild, like all Chicago sports teams that always do this for reasons I'm unsure of, don't want to commit to a full rebuild, so they want to kind of add pieces and spend a bunch of money to like be competitive enough. That's actually a benefit for Cody Bellinger. The reason I say that is he's going to get basically unlimited run. Like, they're specifically trying to put people in seats and make money at Wrigley Field. Now, so you take a player that's going to get a huge, long leash. This is a player that formerly was an MVP a mere 4 years ago. Still not incredibly old, which is what's up. He is coming off some injuries, which are sketchy. But you put him in a hitter-friendly environment, and you relieve the pressure of being on a large market team like that has expectations. And you could be looking at a very, very solid comeback, potentially a comeback player of the year kind of candidate here. Only rostered in 34% of leagues, too. I would have drafted him had my league not been full of sweat lords who hate me. Cody Bellinger is worth it, though. Definitely. I mean, look, you're going to unfortunately have to deal with a lot of Cody Bellinger slumps, but I think the highs are going to be worth balancing out the lows for sure when it comes to him. Joey Meneses. He came through and popped off last year when called up, right? And you would think, okay, flash in the pan, maybe it's not something to look at. But then he came through in the World Baseball Classic and continued to play extremely well. The fact that he's only rostered in 32% of leagues is crazy. That is nuts. Go get this man ASAP. First base outfielder, I mean, it's not exactly a dual position that is hard to find, but I think you're going to be feeling foolish if you don't go pick Meneses up. Plus, he's playing on the Nationals. They have nothing to play for, so they're going to let him play as much as he wants. Like, there's no question he should be on your roster for sure. He's got a bit of power. He hits for average. He's not going to steal any bases, but if the WBC was anything to show, he's going to play really well this year. Is he going to be like an all-star caliber talent? Maybe not, but is he going to be worthy of a roster spot? For sure. I would be willing to say I'm really confident on Meneses as of right now, at least being like a rosterable player. I wouldn't be shocked to see him be rostered in at least like 75% of leagues like a month into the season. Lars Newt. I'm not really too high on Lars Newt. Shout out to him though, because he did carry me in the fantasy baseball playoffs last year where he hit like way too many home runs in like a week and a half span. He's going to have a low batting average. He has some pop in his bat, but we'll see if he can continue to hit the way that he has. He is... I don't want to say he is risky, because I think the Cardinals will give him a decent amount of run, especially with the publicity from the World Baseball Classic, but just know that you're going to have to deal with some slumping with Lars Newt. He's very similar to what I described with Cody Bellinger, for sure. I think he's worth a roster spot, especially if you're in need of cheap power, for sure. Anthony Volpe, another very, very, very hyped player. Yankees next Derek Jeter. Whew, sketch. Now that being said, due to injuries, it's likely that he is going to, he's going to start in the opening portions of the season. He's going to get some run, and he has literally 100 run potential. He does. Now, will he actually make that? Who knows? Shout out to the homie Eric, who was just gassing Volpe the other day. Will he actually make it to that point? I'm not sure, but we could be looking at somebody that could be very special in a very, very dangerous lineup. So once again, he's worth a roster spot if you have it. He really is, for sure. Oh boy, Javier Baez. What a fall from grace he had. He had a terrible season last year. That being said, though, Javier Baez still has some pop in his bat. He's still young enough to contribute. Detroit's going to let him play as much as he wants. If you're looking for cheap power, just like I said with Newt, like, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it for sure. Benintendi. Now, the White Sox are an interesting lineup again. Because it seems they just have like a bunch of outfielders. I think Andrew's probably worth a speculative look, but realistically, is he going to have the type of season he had last year? No, probably not. He is often injured as well, which is also super, super sketch. But once again, if none of these other guys are available, he's only taken in 26.7% of leagues, so he's worth a speculative ad for maybe batting average, and run scoring capability. Now, I've seen a lot of hype on Jurickson Profar. Shout out to Jurickson Profar, by the way. I remember watching him in the Little League World Series. And I remember telling my friend that, I was just joking. And I was telling him, like, I'm going to draft that dude when he comes to the league. And then I did. And then he let me down so much. So many times, in fact. I think I've had this guy on my team probably 15 times in the last, 7 years. Here's the thing, though. He's moved over to Colorado. They're a rebuilding team with not a lot to play for, and they play in, obviously, the most hitter-friendly environment possible. So, we could see the streaky Jurickson Profar pop off for a little bit. He's definitely someone that you want to pick up if he's riding a hot streak, and then you want to drop him if he's riding a cold streak, because this is what he does. But keep an eye on him, for sure. Riley Green, another prospect I think has a lot of upside. Now, will he put it together? It's tough to say. Detroit has nothing to play for. They're going to let him play as much as he wants. So, once again, speculative ad, worthwhile. Oscar Gonzalez, only 24% of leagues. That's crazy to me. If he plays and doesn't get injured, he is rostered in 90% of leagues. I promise he will be by the end of the season. Pick him up ASAP. If you haven't already, or if he's still available, you grab him. You have to. Oscar Gonzalez, chef's kiss. You need him on the squad. He's great. A lot of hype on Miguel Vargas this year. I'm not entirely sold on him, but he does have, Rookie of the Year capability for sure. I even think that maybe the 2023 projected might be a little low for him if he plays even 75% as well as people say he's going to. He's worth a pickup too as well, for sure. I mean, he's on the Dodgers stacked lineup. He's worth a speculative ad. The one thing is, if he starts to struggle, they're probably going to demote him or bench him because they're obviously looking to win now. So, issues. But Abrams is interesting, right? This is a guy I've been gassed on for a few years now, and he's never quite put it together. But he's on a Nationals team with absolutely no hope. And he finally isn't involved in some psychotic logjam at the shortstop position. So he may finally get to play every day and show what he's got. He can definitely steal 30 bases, by the way, for sure. His batting average is going to be interesting. I feel like everything I said about Nico Horner probably applies to CJ Abrams, but I want to kind of see what's going on with him. He's been hyped for so long and never got an opportunity due to Tatis, so it's going to be interesting to see. He's worth a speculative ad as well. He's going to play right away, too, so that's important. You don't have to stash him and hope for him to get called up and start playing. He's going to play off rip, which is nice. Ooh, let's see. Brendan Donovan, I've seen some hype on. I'm not really sold on this super utility guy, personally. I think he could score a decent amount of runs, but I don't think he's worth a roster spot. But he's worth a watch list for sure. I will say that. Same with Ryan McMahon. People love this dude for some reason. He does nothing but disappoint me. He's worth a watch list, but he's not worth a pickup, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it. Will Myers is, once again, worth a watch list, but not a pickup. This is a guy I drafted. No, I didn't. Did I draft him? I may have drafted his rookie year. I know for a fact I had him on my team rookie year, and I had him on my team for 3 years after that. I was so high on Will Myers, and he proved me wrong every time. He did win a championship with me in 2017, though, so salute dipset to you, sir. That being said, he's playing for the Reds. He's going to play a lot. He may put it together. It might be too late. Not really sure. He's worth a watch list. Lordis Uriel Jr. This guy is worth a pickup for sure. This is one of those dudes that I feel every single year people don't draft him, and then about May, June, he gets snatched up off the waiver wire en masse. It's crazy. Every single year this happens, I swear. Get in on that now. He's going to bat for average. He's got a decent amount of pop, too. He's with the Diamondbacks, so it's there's really no pressure on him. I think he has a nice bounce-back season. I think he'll get you a decent amount of counting stats, too. He's not going to steal any bases, but I think he's going to help you in pretty much everything else. So he is definitely worth a pickup as well. If you're looking to... He's one of those players where he's going to be more of a consistent, you can pick him up and you can count on him to play and provide counting stats. He's more consistent. If you're not trying to gamble on a young buck that might come up and hold it down and you're looking to pick someone up who's going to be more consistent and guaranteed play, Gurriel's where it's at. Now let's talk about a gamble. This is a gamble. Jared Kalanick. Oh, I feel like we were all fooled by Jared Kalanick, man. He was one of the hottest prospects in baseball, one of the most touted prospects for the Mariners. And he had a historically bad start to his season. The only person I think that's more disappointing than him last year was probably Spencer Torkelson. Honestly, I drafted him, and I really thought he was going to do something. I was wrong. Kalanick has a lot to prove. That means that people have already kind of forgotten about him, especially with Julio Mania kind of sweeping in there. But he's worth a roster spot if you have like a speculative spot where you can sit there and wait to see if he's going to develop. Because the talent's there. It's just a matter of can he put it together. Now he's going to have a really short leash in Seattle because obviously they're a contending team at this point. So they're not going to sit there and just let him play and work it out for the most part. But I think it's worth picking him up and let him hang out on your bench for, a little bit just to see what's going on there. Trey Mancini. He had a historically bad season last year, for sure. Really bad. Now he comes over to the Cubs. We're just kind of, I don't know what the organization is trying to do. We're not really getting younger. We just signed a bunch of random, dudes this offseason. I don't know, Mancini, Bellinger, Dansby Swanson. It's really don't know what we're doing, which means he's going to play significantly more than he should. That being said, his peak is kind of past him, but I think in a hitter-friendly environment, Trey can produce some decent numbers for sure. He can get back to his 20-something home run days. He's more of kind of a daily fantasy guy, though, I would say, if you're playing DraftKings and stuff like that on weekdays. Someone like Trey Mancini might be a good guy to pick up for cheap, Is he worthy of a roster spot in a standard league? Not sure. Speaking of Spencer Torkelson, man, okay. He let me down quite a bit, but he was a rookie. And it's okay in the mushball era. Not a big deal. He is worth, just like Jared Kalanick, a speculative ad because the talent is there. And the Tigers have absolutely nothing to play for, really. So I don't think he's going to have a huge breakout this year. I think it's going to take him a few more seasons to maybe even out and kind of steadily improve. But he may be able to contribute this year. So if your league is real sweaty, he might be worth picking up. Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes. Real random dudes that we're going to be talking about here pretty soon. Asturi Ruiz. The best way I can describe this dude, or how I view him, is he's slightly better hitting Billy Hamilton. Right? So if you need someone that's going to come out and bat 250, but then they're going to get so many stolen bases, this is your boy. Plus he's on the Athletics. Random dudes from the A's always pop off for no reason, and then they shipped them off in 2 years for, more prospects, because that's what they do. If you're looking for stolen bases, he's definitely a very good player to pick up, and he's on the opening day roster, so that's what's up. I've actually seen some people gas Isaac Paredes. He has multiple position eligibility. He's just a boom or bust guy. He's either going to hit a shot or he's going to strike out. That's just what he's going to do. He's only 24 years old, and the Tampa Bay Rays have a knack of turning random players you've never heard of into, don't want to say stars, but incredibly good players. So once again, if you're looking for cheap power, pick him up, or at least keep him on the watch list. See if he's popping off a little bit. Who knows? You might. Oscar Colas. A lot of hype on this guy, for sure. I think he's going to be given a decent amount of run this year. The only person that's standing in front of him is Gavin Sheets, and if you watch baseball, Gavin Sheets is dog shit, so it doesn't really matter. But even if Gavin Sheets is overperforming and starting to play really well, and you may think oh man, Oscar Colas is probably not going to, I don't even think I'm saying his name correctly. Does not matter. I don't know if Oscar's going to get opportunity. Just remember that the Chicago White Sox have what I can only describe as the most injured team in baseball. There is no possible way, no conceivable way that I see their outfield lasting 80 games without an injury. There's no way. They have Benintendi out there. Eloy is the most injured player in baseball. He's going to be mostly playing DH this year, but we'll see. He can still injure himself playing DH. Luis Robert's usually pretty okay. He doesn't really have that bad of injury past, but who knows? Tim Anderson gets injured. There's a lot of opportunity for him to play. Now, it might not seem that way initially, but don't worry. Oscar is going to get his opportunity. If you're a Sox fan, you know that already. So I don't need to tell you that. Now, Marcel Ozuna is a piece of shit. Let's put that first and foremost right in the headline. Terrible person, okay? And he's kind of washed up, but he can still hit shots, and he's in a dangerous Atlanta Braves lineup. Only 8.2% rostered. Ooh, this is about the cheapest power that you can pick up, and he's probably going to fall flat on his face. Like, this is a very risky investment, but, I mean, there's potential he can come back and hit 20 homers, like, for sure. He is a streaky. I would watch him, put him on the watch list, watch him for the first couple games of the season, see if you're thinking that he might help your team, Don't immediately go pick him up, but, keep an eye on him. A lot of people like Brent Batty. I'll be honest, it is possible that he comes up this year and plays well. He's a watch and see kind of guy. We'll see with him. I'm not really sure on him. I don't know. Yoan Moncada. He has the pedigree. He has come out. He has played well before, but he's been injured. He's had 2 back-to-back pretty terrible seasons. So, I think he's worth a speculative ad. I mean, he's on my team. Like, I picked him up. We'll see if I'm right about that. Just know, high reward, very high risk when it comes to Moncada. We'll see. We'll see about him. Now, it gets desolate out here. Like, guys like Garrett Mitchell, I think, could be good if given the amount of opportunities. We'll see if they actually are. But I feel like there are some guys out here, even in these later, only rostered in like 4% of leagues kind of areas. Like Logan O'Hop. Is it O'Hop or O'Hoppy? Don't care. Look, if you're in a 2-catcher league, for sure you should pick this guy up, because I think this dude has vast potential. And I think the Angels are so desperate to kind of win now, being that this is the last time likely that they're going to have Trout and Ohtani on the same team, that they're just going to play hot bats the entire season. It's pretty much what I would do realistically. So he's someone, especially being that catcher is like the worst position, and unless you have like one of the top tier catchers or a guy who plays catcher like sometimes, so he plays every day like a Dalton Varsho, like, it's worth it to invest in a random catcher and hope he pops off. Like, he's going to be on the roster. It's a matter of if he plays. I don't know. But I really do feel like this guy has a lot of potential, and he's worth a stash if you have the space. He's also worth a watch list for sure, just to see kind of what his playing time situation is going to be like. If you're looking for cheap homers on a terrible team, I mean, there's no one that personifies that more than Jorge Soler. Now, I'm a Cubs fan, like I've said. Jorge Soler has let me down many times in the past, but he is a streaky hitter. He's someone to watch, and you start to see a little pattern of him hitting shots. Maybe pick him up for a few days, see if that's continuing. Then immediately when he goes like 3 games without getting a hit, you drop him, right? This is a foolproof strategy for success. This will win you a matchup or 2, but you need to make sure that you're able to cut ties as fast as humanly possible with Soler, because he will burn you. Now, some people are really hyped on Brandon Belt. I personally am not. I have never really been a Brandon Belt hype guy. Pretty much everything I've watched leading up to my draft, people are like, Brandon Belt, comeback player. I personally don't believe that. And it looks like the general population doesn't either, being he's only rostered in 3.1% of leagues. I get that he's like a popular pick, and he's like a safe pick too, because if I say that Brandon Belt is going to do better than you expect this year, really anything that he does is probably going to be better than you expect, because you expect so little out of him. But I personally am not wasting a roster spot on him. He's available. I don't want him, Same Patrick Wisdom. People like Patrick Wisdom. I personally don't. I'm a Cubs fan. I just think he's a low batting average, high power guy, and there's just so many of those in the league that if you have Cubs fans in your league, might be worth picking him up and trying to trade him, when he's on a hot streak, because a Cubs fan's probably going to be irrational, and trade for him for no reason whatsoever, because I'll be honest, majority of our fan base is stupid. But wouldn't pick him up. Now, there's inevitably going to be someone in your league that picks up Jason Dominguez. And I'm going to say the talent's there, but I don't think he plays this year. It's possible that he could progress real fast and maybe get through AAA, maybe get up to the majors, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. Now, that being said, he's a watch list guy. You for sure watch list him, no question about it, because if he even gets close or sniffs the major leagues, you pick him up instantly, because this is a game changer type of player. I just personally don't think he's going to play this year, and if he does, it's going to be super, super far down the line. Another kind of prospect to look at would be Sal Friedl. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know. He's got speed. He can hit. The Brewers are a weed team, though. They're weird. You know what I mean? It's like, even when you think they have nothing to play for, those are the years where they randomly come out and just are like kind of good for some reason. I don't know what's up with them. They just love to overachieve. So something to kind of think about for sure. Somebody to watch. He's a watch list guy. No question about it. Should you go out and pick him up? No. But should you watch list him? Yes. Same way I feel about TJ Friedl. Once again, he's got a lot of kind of hype surrounding him and a lot of promise, but I don't know if he's ever going to put it together. We will see. Now, anyone else down in the deep depths of like the 1% owned that may be worth your time? Looking through the names, Yoan Baez. For sure, if he gets called up, he's someone you definitely want to pick up. I think he's actually a lot better than people give him credit for. Definitely want to watch list him for sure. Anyone else? I mean, Gavin Sheets, he does this thing every year where he'll come out and play way better than you expect him to, and then he'll get picked up by a bunch of people, but don't make that mistake. He does that. Mike Moustakas. Now, there's going to be some temptation to pick up Mike Moustakas because he's playing on Colorado. But you have to remember that it's Mike Moustakas, and he sucks, okay? I hate Mike Moustakas. I do. I'm sure he's a lovely person, okay? I don't hate him as a person, but from a fantasy baseball perspective, dislike him strongly. Don't worry about him, though. No. You pick up Montero instead. Eleuris Montero. This is the next guy up for Colorado. He's playing at Coors Field, so that's always big W, right? He is absolutely crushing it during the Cactus League. There is no question, and the only person in front of him at third base is Mike Moustakas. You're going to look maybe not like a genius if you pick this guy up, but I mean, this could potentially change a season. Guys like this do this. Like, I don't think he is the greatest prospect in the world, but this is a guy who could come through and put up, like, at bare minimum, average starter numbers that you're getting off the waiver wire. 1% of people own this guy. It's time for him to come up and hold it down. Just wait. I promise. Pick him up. This is probably, if there's anyone below the 10% rostered that I've talked about, this is the guy I recommend picking up. Pick this dude up ASAP. I cannot be high enough on this guy. Another guy I actually really like is Jose Siri. I think he's a bit streaky and kind of unproven and didn't really do a whole lot last year, but he steals a lot of bases and he's fast and he's going to get everyday at-bats for the Rays. So definitely want to pick him up. Now look, if there's anyone you specifically are really high on, please jump in the comments down below. Hey, it's your friend Cheap Ludes. I'm going to do a pitchers one too if you guys like this one. So comment down below if you want a pitchers one. You know, this is the first fantasy video I've ever done. I just like fantasy baseball. So, peace.